I'm Dave Briggs.
And I'm Christine Romans. It is Tuesday, September 3rd. It is 5 a.m. in the east.
We start with breaking news this morning. Hurricane Dorian, doing something hurricanes rarely, if ever, do, is completely stalled now for a full day over the Bahamas. Look at the radar, essentially just spinning in place as the storm completely flattens parts of the Bahamas. In the words of the National Hurricane Center, Dorian simply won't budge.
The new update from the National Hurricane Center shows little movement, but movement is expected later this morning. I want to bring in meteorologist Chad Myers. Chad is live in the CNN Weather Center. This thing just stuck there for so long over this island, an island in the dark and underwater. Where's it going now?
You know, as Americans, we're saying, please move. But as the Bahamians are saying, oh, God, please move. You know, this thing is 120-mile-per-hour storm still. And the word there, stationary. It has not moved. I plotted this center yesterday when I left afternoon. And it is only 6 miles from where I plotted it yesterday. So 6 miles in, 16 hours. So there you go. Here's the storm, right just to the north and just to the northeast of Freeport. So Freeport, you're on the back side of the eye, the worst side here for this matter, for at least landfall. A little bit more over here toward the east for convection. But we're noticing some dry air getting wrapped into the storm. That's because it's not a perfect circle anymore, not a great eye anymore. That's great news. Even if it doesn't move, if it would just die, I'd be okay with that. It's been over the same water for so long that water is getting colder, so you don't have the fuel to the fire to keep this thing going. Florida, Georgia, you are now officially out of the cone. Now, as the Hurricane Center will tell you, only 2/3 of all the storms stay within the cone. That's what the cone means. So we're still going to move it on up towards Savannah and into Charleston and eventually toward the North Carolina coast, slowing down in intensity, 115 off the coast of Savannah. It will take a long time for this to spin down. It really will. We still have hurricane warnings along the coast from about Sebastian all the way up to about Ponte Vedra. Those are the hurricane warnings. We expect at least some hurricane gusts from every one of these cells that goes on by, those outer bands. We talk about those a lot. Category 3, making winds somewhere right now at around the 23 to 25 mile per hour mark, although we do know that we've had some reports over 50 miles per hour overnight. 4 to 7 foot storm surge, still because that wind is going in the same direction for so long. The water is piling up in the intercoastal, in those rivers, in the streams, in the creeks, in the canals, and all those places where people park their boats. The water is going up this morning simply because the wind, just like a coffee cup, when you try to blow your coffee cup, make it cool, if you blow across the top of it, the waves take the coffee to the other side of the cup, the waves take the ocean current to the other side, and that's right now the Florida East Coast. Guys.
Yeah, still pretty dramatic. 7-foot storm surge, so do not relax entirely. Chad Myers, live for us. Thank you, sir. At least 5 hurricane-related deaths reported on the Bahamas, Abaco Islands, and that number could rise sharply.
The devastation is unprecedented and extensive. Many homes, businesses, and other buildings have been completely or partially destroyed.
With power cut throughout the island, residents of Grand Bahama are left to huddle in the dark as the water level rises. CNN spoke to one woman who rode out the storm.
I think everyone here is pretty much in shock. It's utter destruction everywhere we look, so everyone's kind of happy that we're alive, but it's just the realization of, the aftermath. It's awful.
More than 20 U.S. Coast Guard cutters and 4 helicopters are conducting rescue operations right now in the Bahamas. They've already saved 19 people, we're told. Our Patrick Ottman is there. He's on the ground in Freeport.
Dave, Christine, Hurricane Dorian continues to batter Grand Bahama hour after hour. You would think the storm would quit, but so far it is not showing any signs of easing up on this island where people have lost roofs. They've had their cars submerged, their houses submerged underwater, and there is the fear tonight that people here could have lost their lives. On the island of Abaco, we know that at least 5 people were killed when Dorian passed through there on its way to Grand Bahama. Authorities say they will be going house to house in the coming days, both here and there, to look for more victims. Here in Grand Bahama, though, the situation is complicated because the storm continues to rage here. It is whipping wind rain is coming down. Some of the most powerful parts of this hurricane we've only felt in the overnight hours. So it is a hurricane that simply does not want to give the people on this island that have already suffered so much a break. Dave, Christine?
All right, Patrick Ottman there, thank you. Mandatory evacuation orders following Dorian's new track, expanding up the East Coast into North and South Carolina. The hurricane is expected to reach the Carolinas by Thursday evening, and ahead of the storm, the Charlotte Motor Speedway has opened its campground to hurricane evacuees. So has the Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee. In Charleston, South Carolina, I-26 now one way in both directions, so visitors and residents can evacuate. And Myrtle Beach, residents are taking the warning seriously and boarding up their homes.
Storm preparations turning deadly for a 68-year-old man in Indialantic, Florida. Police say he fell off a ladder 3 stories to his death. He was trying to board up his windows. At least 7 hospitals along the East Coast are fully evacuating. Florida officials are already seeing a rise in price gouging as Dorian nears. One Shell gas station selling cases of water for $9 instead of the usual $4. And in Jacksonville, animal lovers are stepping up in a really big way to help the local shelters, taking in 140 cats and 70 dogs into temporary foster homes.
Correspondent Nick Valencia keeping an eye on conditions in Melbourne on Florida's Central Atlantic. Nick, good morning. What are you seeing there?
Good morning, Dave. The wind has been steady all morning long since we've been out here in these overnight hours. And just about 45 minutes or so ago, we got hit with our first significant band of rain. But just as quickly as that wall of rain came down, it left, and now we're just left with a sort of drizzle here. What is happening, though, among residents that we've been speaking to is this fatigue. They've been prepping for what they thought last week was going to be a direct hit. And as that track changed, and as we now see that Hurricane Dorian is likely to just skirt up and grind up the coastal part of Florida, they're now sort of shrugging their shoulders at this storm, thinking and dismissing that there's going to be any significant damage. That, of course, is dangerous and not what emergency management officials want to hear. Part of Brevard County, where we are, is under a mandatory evacuation, though yesterday you wouldn't be able to tell it. It went into effect at 1 p.m. yesterday. We were on the beach, and more and more people started to show up to look at those waves and say that they were planning on waiting this storm out. They were planning on hunkering down and taking their chances. That, of course, puts emergency management officials in a lot of danger if they have to go about rescue operations for those who did stay behind. But that, of course, is what's happening here. Those longtime Floridian residents say they've been through worse than what is expected from Hurricane Dorian. Dave, Christine?
Shrugging their shoulders. Nick Valencia live for us this morning in Florida. Thank you, sir.
All right, joining us now via Skype from West Palm Beach, Florida, Palm Beach County Fire and Rescue Chief Reginald Dorian. Good morning, Chief. Nice to see you. So the most recent update from the National Hurricane Center is that this monster storm, a Category 3 dangerous hurricane, is 105 miles to the east of where you sit right now. How are you preparing?
Well, we've been preparing ever since the end of the previous hurricane season. In this area, preparing for hurricanes is a constant operation on our part, and we take every step to make sure we're prepared by training our personnel continually, by assuring they have the resources in place to have a successful operation, reassuring the community that we're here and ready to provide for their needs, and additionally through public education, also give them all the tools they need to be successful, both pre-storm, during storm, and post-storm events.
A reporter there, Nick Valencia, just reporting that people are shrugging their shoulders and dismissing the storm now. He's in Melbourne, but we're seeing similar reports from West Palm Beach and along the Florida coast. What are your words of warning to those people who are dismissing the danger of this storm?
We still have a very strong storm off our coast. And as many of us who have seen with this very storm recognize, there's no real absolutes when it comes to Mother Nature. Its behavior is really unpredictable in many ways. We've seen some strong winds. We've seen some gusts. We still know we may see some tropical storm winds. So we're very concerned. We've also got issues concerning water and rain. As many people have previously said, one of the biggest hazards associated with events like this is with the water and being concerned with that and the possibility still of having down power lines and the possibility of people getting out too early. So we still have a number of concerns. We'll continue to educate our public to not let our guard down just yet. Certainly Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is still staffed up and ready and prepared for the event that this storm does take a a more significant turn our way.
Yeah, just some last advice from you for people who might be listening in your area. I mean, one of the things that we've noticed covering these storms is sometimes people wait too late to try to leave and they get into trouble as the storm approaches. And sometimes they come back too soon. And that's where the downed power lines and the water in the roads can be really deadly, even as the skies are clear.
No, that's absolutely correct. And that's one of our concerns. And that's why, again, we have continual public education to make people aware and to pay attention to the warnings and look at the media and pay attention to social media. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue have a significant presence in the social media to try to contact people and keep them abreast of what's going on and let them know that even though things may look safe, they can become unstable fairly quickly.
All right, Chief, nice to see you. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning to give us that important advice. Chief Reginald Dorian there in West Palm Beach. Nice to see you.